he says when he goes in depth. So I think we should just probably do where we're at today and where the Lord. I mean, we can touch on a little bit of that, but I think if you say like, the Nephilim are going to come back without saying, as in the days of Noah, and explaining that, people are
Walking
going to
through that
understand.
in yeah, mainly what I was thinking about today is from a very not surface level, 50,000 foot view of the timeline, where we are in creation, where we are in God's timeline, which you can go to a lot more detail with that, but starting with the recreation of the nation of Israel, that kicked off one of the major timelines of the last days. That was one of the
100%.
first
I
signs
wonder what Bible verse that is actually, where it talks
with
about that.
the creation, the budding of the olive tree.
Yeah, and it talks about it says, a generation shall not pass from the
Right.
rebirth of the nation of Israel. I just don't remember where it's at.
Yeah, that's one of the major timelines, and right along, I think it was either the year before or the year after that is when they found when they discovered the Qumran caves with the
Dead
Dead
Sea
Sea
Scrolls,
Scrolls,
yeah.
which
It was
was
like
in
67 and 68 or something.
47,
Yeah,
48.
47, 48.
Yeah,
I don't know why I said
47,
67.
48, somewhere in
67
that.
was the 6 Day War.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a 6 Day War. So you have those two things, which both of them are prophetic, because you have this. You have the one about the olive tree, the
Yeah.
olive branch, or this generation shall not pass from the budding of the
Yeah.
olive tree, or however it's worded. But then you also have the book that's sealed up, that Daniel sealed,
Yeah.
and you have the seven thunders that John was not allowed to write down. And right around the time of the nation of Israel, you have the cave of Qumran that had been sealed
Yeah.
from at least from the end of the Essene community, so
Yeah.
75 AD
Yeah.
until
I
47,
wonder
48.
how long a generation is in those days.
True.
That's what I'd like to know. Because you figure, let's spitball and say it was 1947. If a generation is 80 years, it's 2027.
That's really close, right?
And we were just talking about this 2032 thing the other day. Like, what is, if it's 84 years, we're at 2032. Like,
We're at 2032, right?
what is it? Like,
A generation that's in the earth. So the 40, that's the baby boomer population. So that was right around the end of World War II.
and
So
there's
that
a
would be
lot
the
of them left,
boomers.
actually.
Absolutely. My parents, in that generation, my parents were born in the 50s. So
That's what I'm saying. What's a generation?
right.
Because if
Well,
that's the
so you've
case,
got roughly 20 years from around that time point for that generation to be birthed.
yeah.
Because a generation is roughly 20 years. So it's the one born in that 20-year generation.
Yeah.
So that would be the baby boomers. Will
Well,
not
even
pass away.
someone born in 1946, a year before that, and
You're still looking
dies
at
in
80, 90 years.
2046,
Yeah.
he's still 100. So if you
Still
go
100.
back 13 years, he's 77 or
Right.
87.
87. And
There's an 87-year-old neighbor across the street. Like,
exactly. Life expectancy is much higher now than I don't know if the life expectancy higher now than it was then.
it's gone up
adults,
a bit,
but
yeah.
and that's mainly because of successful birth rates, not necessarily the length of time lived. But yeah, it lines up
Crazy.
perfectly. And then you look at, with the Essene community, what's amazing about the Cave of Qumran is you actually find the Essene calendar, and
Did they have a calendar in there?
they did,
I didn't know that.
and it laid out 3 successive 2,000-year periods from the creation of the earth, or from the time of Adam up until the Sabbath year, starting, and I think that is right around 2032, 2033 is the end of the 6,000 years.
It wouldn't surprise me, because I told you I was doing that thing the other day with Chat GPT, and I said, if the Bible's real, how far back do we go? And it said we're in like 5847 or something like that, or whatever it was, or 5497 or whatever it
But
said.
there's like a 250-year time period in the Jewish
and if you
calendar
add
that's
those
missing.
time period for 200 years or something that was missing, it puts us right now today like 6.5 years away.
Yep. Which, that's where the Essene calendar is so important, because it was sealed all this time, and it didn't have the manipulation that the Jewish calendar had.
Yeah.
So the Essene calendar is more pristine of what would have happened around the first century church
It's crazy.
than the Jewish calendar. And so that, yeah, it's 2032, 2033, somewhere in that time period is. And when you have this transition between eras, you're going to have overlap. So it's not saying that there's a straight cutoff at 2032, 2033. And I'm not ever into one of those of,
No, I'm not predicting the day.
this is when the Lord's coming back, because I mean, he very clearly said no one will know the day or the hour.
I think when they build that temple,
That's it.
and we start noticing the federation around. I say federation because I want to incorporate every one of them, all the 10 kings. I think when that federation starts coming around them, I think we're going to know. But there's nowhere from Turkey to Iran. I was going to say Persia. From Iran down to Qatar, down to UAE, down to Saudi Arabia, all the way down Sudan, all the way across, all the way up to the northern part of Africa, which you go from like Sudan up to Tripoli and all those other places. All of that's Muslim controlled today.
Mm-hmm. Every single bit of it.
Every single solitary one of them are Muslim controlled.
And it wasn't that way 40 years ago.
And that's the same. It's not control because it's mostly Soviet, but you go up into the Dagestans and all those little Kurdistan and all those stands up there, they're all still mostly Muslim too, even though Russia controls a lot of it.
Russia controls a lot of it,
but they're all still Muslim culturally, which is nuts.
It is. And I'm agreeing with most of the Islamic, the idea that the Antichrist may be just the Islamic faith. It may be whoever the Mahdi.
Yeah, the religious leader of them. Yeah,
religious leader of Islam. Whoever it is going to be fully possessed by the dragon. It's not going to be just some bad person. It's going to be.
I wonder if it's going to be a little bit of both, because you know how you'll have the Father, Son, and Spirit, and then you'll have the counteract to that, which will be the devil, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. So I know the devil and the Antichrist will be separate, but I wonder how much they'll be. Like the Father's in the Son. Well, I wonder how much of that there will be.
I think it's going to be the I and my Father are one, and then the Antichrist is going to be I and my Father are one.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
I mean, if you're going to, I mean, we know Satan can never create anything. He just perverts what the Lord has already done.
He's a copycat. He's a counterfeit. Yeah. He counterfeits everything.
And so if it works for the Lord, he's going to counterfeit it.
I think that's where we start then. I'm literally just going to look at you and say, let's talk about end times.
Yep.
I mean, we could do it now. Go.
Which we have been.
I think I don't disagree that you're sorry, my anemia's kicking. I'm getting cold. I don't disagree that you're wrong. I just don't know I guess what I'm asking about that is the level at which he'll be in control.
Right.
You know, it's like we know there's going to be two witnesses, and me and you both agree it's probably going to be Enoch and Elijah, but we know there's two witnesses, and we know they're going to be able to stop the rains and breathe fire, and they're going to be preaching the gospel. But do they actually control all the elements? Can they move them? Like, I don't know what level of control they'll have.
How much of that is figurative language, or how much of that
exactly.
Which that's the thing about Revelation is understanding apocalyptic Jewish literature, because as I've said this countless times, and I agree with it, before we get into Revelation, you have to understand Daniel, Ezekiel, Zechariah, Isaiah.
Yeah.
It's all apocalyptic Hebrew literature.
You know, when I started, these two books I've told you are older. They're like 12 years old. But when I started doing the thing for Islam, I wrote out, like, you know me, I'm super nerdy.
Oh, yeah.
So I drew out this entire map, right? I sat there and looked at the map and drew the whole thing out. And I drew out this entire map. And on there, I put the places like as you can see, I went through, like, that's all just Quran stuff. But I went through and I wrote down places like for example, in Ezekiel 35, it mentions Put, Egypt, Ethiopia, or Cush, Magog, Meshach, Tubal, Damascus, Ephraim, Tyre and Sidon, Gebal, Arabia, Assyria, Persia, Edom, Moab, and Ammon, right? Mm-hmm. And so I went down and I was like, all right, let's find out where they are today. So I started looking through it. Like Put is Libya, Egypt, obvious. Ethiopia is modern-day Sudan. Magog and Meshach and Tubal are all in Turkey. Damascus, obviously Syria. Tyre and Sidon are outside of Lebanon. Arabia is Saudi Arabia. Assyria is Iraq. Persia is Iran. Edom, Moab, and Ammon. And the desert it talks about northeast of Israel is all Jordan today. And then if you go into Zephaniah, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Joel, Ezekiel, and Daniel. I wrote all the verses too, as you can see, because you know I'm stupid. I wrote all the verses too, and every one of them are 100% Islam controlled today.
Absolutely.
Every one of them.
Every single one of them.
That is the scariest thing, because I think that's where the church is going to get it wrong.
I agree.
I think
They're going to be
get it
looking
wrong.
for a. They're going to be looking for a left behind
European Pope. Yeah.
Either Pope, either Catholic Church, which I think the Catholic Church is going to kowtow to the
Chrislam or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said that.
So it's either going to be, I think it's the false prophet is either going to be the Catholic Church or the United States.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the two. I know Chuck Missler
The
believed
United States? Really?
Chuck Missler believed that the United States would be the false prophet to point to the Antichrist.
You think it'll be the literal false prophet or like a shadow of?
Will be the actual false prophet. Of course, Chuck Missler's stance was always the Antichrist was not a single person, but a body, a governmental body, like a system of control, a government.
I don't know if I disagree with that. I know that I want to say it's Daniel that says this actually, or maybe Revelation, but it goes in and it says there were 10 kings and 2 of them were plucked up and he took place of them.
Mhm.
He's
That's
over
Daniel.
that coalition, or that what I
Well,
always call the Muslim Alliance. He's over it.
The beast had 10 heads anyway. So yeah, I tend to agree that it's going to be a government because there's been so many Left Behind type
Yeah.
stories out there that if we see one individual person all of a sudden take over all things around the world, it's going to raise too many antennas. But if it's a UN type thing or Islamic thing, and especially if you have a major power like either the Catholic Church or the United States giving their full support behind it, then you'll have more people following
That's
it,
what I was just
including
talking
Christians.
about. That's what all that is. All that's a study of the Quran I did over there. I think you're right. Only thing I think is different is they see at the time of Rome and they say this has to be the Antichrist, because then you had the Antioch stuff that happened right after, and all these different things. Types and shadows are all through the Bible. But I think what they miss is 2 things. I think they miss that most of that Roman army was people from Syria, which was most of it, which is why I think it's mixed at the end. But I think there's a mixture there. But also, there's one verse, and I want to say it's in Daniel, but I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's in Daniel. But there's one verse in there in particular, and it mentions the kings, and it goes through 8 of them. And it says 5 were, 1 is Rome, and 1 is yet to come, consumes all of it before. And the 8th is from the 7th. The 7th is the yet to come.
Yep.
The only empire after Rome that took all the same land was the Ottoman.
It's the Ottoman Empire.
And then the 8th is from the 7th. If the 8th is from the 7th, then who's coming out of the Ottoman Empire? But then when you listen to people today, they're like, oh no, it became the Holy Roman Empire was after that. And then I'm like, well, where are they now? Like,
right.
There was no such thing. The Holy Roman Empire never even took Persia.
No.
Let alone any of the rest of it. Like, they didn't even go far enough to cut and push in all them places.
Mm-mm.
They only took barely south of Jerusalem and a little bit of Egypt. But
well, and then you look at the Crusades, and what happened was basically the Islamic faith Muslims were the ones that defeated the Catholic Church over and over and over and over and over until they just stopped fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, the Catholic Church had 2 victories.
Yeah.
And then after that, they just got slaughtered every time.
Yeah. I don't disagree that the Catholic Church will play a part in it. I still think that, like we saw earlier, that Mahdi and the guy they call Isa ibn Maryam, which is like Jesus, son of Mary, in Islam, is going to come back and say, I didn't die on the cross. Christianity's not real. He's going to smash the cross and kill all the Christians and say, I faked my death. I still think those are the literal Antichrist and false prophet, but I do think there's a coalition of all forces, because Israel's surrounded by kings and nations on all sides. I think he might be over it, but I think the Catholic Church has a part to play in it, and I think a lot of them are going to say, they're going to step back and be like, no, this isn't right, and we'll step out of it. But I think the Pope is probably the greatest influence on the earth as far as Christians go.
I agree.
He's going to have to. He's already given them a place to pray inside the Catholic Church now.
Yep. They're already working on a symbiotic relationship between Catholicism and Islam, not necessarily Christianity as a whole.
Yeah, you know my motto: black and white. He's Lord or he isn't. If he's
Lord,
you can't have an idol in his house. Like,
and the thing is, for those who do take the mark of the beast, which I'm I'm beginning to change. The old school view on that was it was a literal mark that you put on your forehead in your hand, like a computer chip. Well, at first they thought, I think before computer chips became viable as something like that, they were talking about like stamps or something that allow you access to the marketplace. I think it's actually way more subtle than that, because remember, Satan's just a counterfeiter, right?
Yeah.
So what does it say in the Shema, in the greatest commandment?
The Lord your God. Love the Lord your God.
And you shall, actually what
Have no
Jesus
other gods
quotes
before him.
is the Shema, and the way it reads is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Yeah.
And you, I know it in Hebrew just from repeating it all the time, but I haven't in my head. I'm not translating it to English right now, but it's very interesting that there's a very particular phrase in there. Let me find it. It's Deuteronomy.
Well, while you're looking it up, have you ever heard the Muslim version of that from the Quran? What
No.
they say?
No, I have not.
I'm going to tell you. This is a good one. They say that when the Mahdi comes on scene, he's going to, after he gets the army together before he attacks Jerusalem, he's going to end up in Damascus, Syria, and this Isa ibn Maryam is going to come down in fire for the whole world to see. And when he comes down, he's going to have with him the rod of Moses, the staff, and he's going to mark people, believers, on their forehead and on their right arm with Bismillah, and that's going to be the mark that they all get. And anybody who doesn't have it either converts or dies or gets beheaded. And our thing says he marks you on your head or your forearm with a mark of the beast, and if you take it, you're done. That's it. So if they're doing
Deuteronomy
that,
6:4, and so this is very interesting. It says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, with all of your might, and these words I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit on your house, and when you walk in the way, and you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and a seal between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And that is the central prayer of Judaism and what Jesus quotes as the greatest commandment.
but how would that be a mark for us, though? What do you mean?
Well, he's talking about the Torah, the teaching of the Lord, and you shall bind it. So he's talking about the submission of all things, everything that you have to the Lord, your heart, your soul, and your strength. And when you break that down, it doesn't just mean your emotions. Your heart is literally with every passion that you have.
Yeah.
All of your passions are submitted to the Lord. With your soul is literally your breath. With the very last breath in your body is for the Lord. And with your strength, it doesn't mean your physical strength. It means your muchness is but it equates to everything you own. All of your possessions, everything you accumulate in your life, all things are submitted to the Lord.
I wonder if anybody can live to that standard, though. That's the
Well,
thing.
Jesus says it's the greatest commandment.
Yeah.
And what Moses says at the end of it is, these are not too heavy for you.
Yeah.
So yes, you can, but we've been trained for so long that we can't.
Yeah.
So, but he goes on from that to say, and you shall speak about these things. What he's talking about is the Torah, the teaching of the Lord, God's, the character of who he is, the standards of how he requires us to live, basically the nature and character of Yahweh. And you shall bind them to your hands and a seal between your eyes. Well, where does the mark of the beast go?
Your forehead and right arm.
Forehead and right hand. So I think it's a perversion of, instead of 100% of your focus and devotion and everything to the Lord only, it's your 100% devotion and everything to the Antichrist. I think it's going to be far more subtle than a computer chip implanted on your hand.
I see where you're getting at. I think that I don't disagree with that. I think that once you do something like Bismillah, you're done, because it says, in the name of Allah, Muhammad's his messenger. You're denying Father and Son and the cross all in one shot.
And I think honestly, it goes back to becoming a Muslim.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's in any way. That's even because you're given three choices. You either head cut off, become a slave, or convert. So I believe if you choose any option other than having my head cut off,
Yeah.
you're accepting the mark of the beast.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. A lot of people. This is what bothers me about this, and I'm gonna get in complete trouble when I post it online. But this is what bothers me. People are like, "You're gonna have to take this mark of the beast." But what happens if it's like a chip? I said, me and Keith can hold you down, and I can stick a chip in your arm. That's not the mark of the
That's
beast.
not the mark of the beast.
The mark of the beast, you're going to have to make a pledge of allegiance to this person over God, because by doing that, the only way that you're going to end up in hell for eternity, taking the mark, is you're going to have to deny the cross and the Father and Son. You're not just going to be able to get a chip implanted in your arm to scan over to pay for your stuff.
Nope.
Like, that's retarded. It's going to have to be full on.
And that's where I think the Islamic thing is way important. And that's why I think this seal between your eyes and the mark on your hand is way more subtle than the computer chip. The computer chip was the thing for so long because people were terrified. People are always terrified of new advancements in technology. But yeah, I think it's going to be the mark of the beast. I think is going to be the acceptance of this one world religion, which most likely what it looks like now is Islam. It's going to be Islam.
I think it's either in the Quran or Hadith, but I know it's in there. And they actually say that they have the Ring of Solomon too. But when you have the Ring of Solomon, which doesn't do anything, but supposedly it gives this fake Jesus his powers. But this staff that they're using to mark your head and your right hand in your head, which coincidentally they wear the right arm in their head for Bismillah now. But the staff they do supposedly makes a Muslim's face glow. And you can tell they're some kind of special people. So all they're going to do is put that on, be able to see who is and isn't a Muslim. If it's a one world government and Sharia laws passed, they can stop you from doing anything they want. Food, everything.
Yep.
So it's going to be one of those things. And I don't think at that point, I don't know what the time frame is on that. Because when you're accepting the mark, that's full on tribulation part after 3.5 years. I don't know if the Christians are going to be here anyway. The ones who are in Christ now.
It's going to be the foolish virgins. It's going to be the ones
that
will be
no oil.
Prepared.
Yeah. I'm glad you said it the other day too, because we were talking and you mentioned the 10 virgins, and a line at the end made me go, I never thought about that. Because when you hear the story of the 10 virgins, you hear the 10 virgins, 5 of them had oil and the other 5 ran off to get oil. And I was like, those are the unsaved, the unbelievers, whatever. And you're like, but they're all virgins.
They're still virgins.
Like, oh, that makes sense. So it's not that they're not believing,
they're not the overcomers.
Yeah.
They did not overcome the spirit of this age.
Yeah.
When they had the chance.
That goes back to the story that a lot of people are talking now. Once saved, always saved. And they say, no, the Bible specifically says those who endure to the end. And I'm like, I think both can be correct if they're interpreted right. I think if you're in Christ, quote unquote, in Christ, and you walk away and follow Islam, you were never in Christ, because you can never taste that fruit and go away. Like, that's not a thing.
So, types and shadows.
Yeah.
I've been studying this. What caught me is in Jude. How much have you read in Jude?
Not a lot.
This will be interesting. So Jude explicitly states
now I want to hear
things that now. we have hinted at, or we've seen, as in, Christology, seeing Christ in the Old Testament. Jude specifically says,
it's ought to be easy to find. There ain't much of it.
No.
Jude kept it short and sweet.
I'm trying to find exactly, because it's pretty short. Okay, and starting in verse 5, it says, now I want to remind you, although you once fully knew it, that Jesus, who saved a people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed those who did not believe. So he's explicitly stating Jesus was the deliverer back then. Yeah. Jesus was, he was the fulfillment of the Passover lamb for all people. So he says this, afterward destroyed those who did not believe. So they were already delivered. They were saved, because salvation is not adoption. Salvation is deliverance.
Well, there's a line like that in the Old Testament. He never said the Jews who didn't see the promised land weren't going to Abraham's bosom to be saved later. He just said, you're not making it there.
You're not making it into the promised land right now. It's the same type and shadow of the foolish virgins.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then he goes on to talk about the angels who did not stay in their own position, and he goes on to Sodom and Gomorrah, and he goes on, which we can get into that in another
Which
time.
I think he's talking about. He's basically just explaining Jesus was in all these things.
He is. But then what he does is he compares, yet in like manner, these people also, relying on their dreams, defile the flesh, reject authority, and blaspheme the glorious ones, which is talking about angels. And then he goes on to say this: woe to them, for they walked in the way of Cain, abandoned themselves for the sake of gain of Balaam's error, and perished in Korah's rebellion. So he said the people that did not make it into the land of promise, the reason they didn't, he's laying out three things: the way of Cain, Balaam's error, and Korah's rebellion.
Cain murdered his brother.
But why? And this is where it points to today. And this is a serious.
You mean like the root of it?
The root of it. So
I think he was mad that God chose Abel over him, and it was also a little bit of jealousy.
Did he choose Abel, or did he choose Abel's
offering? The offering.
And what's the difference? And you'll see it once this clicks.
Because Abel gave his first fruits to God, and Cain gave something he created with his own hands.
So what was Abel? What did Abel do?
Sheep.
So he brought a sacrifice of
the
blood.
Oh.
How were Adam and Eve redeemed? Because Adam and Eve were redeemed after they sinned. They were restored back to their original place, but it was through the shedding of blood. They tried to cover themselves with their own handiwork, with fig leaves, and the Lord basically said that's not good enough, and he killed an animal, clothed them with animal skins.
Yeah.
Cain and Abel knew this.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve would have told them this. So Abel understood the revelation. The revelation is only by the shedding of blood, specifically lamb's blood or sheep's blood, which points to the coming Messiah.
Yeah.
The Passover lamb, all of that. And so he saw revelation, and he saw worship. So Abel had a sacrifice of revelation of the covenant. He understood the covenant that the Lord was making with Adam and Eve, and through Adam and Eve.
I never looked at that. And Cain just gave him something that he created by his own hand, saying, I can do it myself.
Cain saw the covenant is established by my toil. Now, what's funny is there's a difference between toil and worship.
Yeah.
Toil is working by the sweat of your own brow to create your own things, by busting your butt, by sticking your nose to the grinding wheel. Worship is I do the work understanding who provides everything for me, and I rely upon him to do it. Abel saw worship. Cain saw achievement.
Yeah.
And the response, Cain's response is very telling, because the same spirit goes through the earth today. We have people who live by revelation of the covenant and people who live by their own physical achievement. And what happens when they see these people walking in authority and power? They kill them. They try to. We see this.
Makes a lot of sense.
We've actually already seen this. When they see this move in the earth, that's, and I don't know how much trouble this is going to get in, this goes out there, but this move in the earth about radical vulnerability, radical transparency is based upon the understanding of God's covenant, the understanding, and it's based upon revelation. Whereas when people that don't see that, what do when they see this radical vulnerability? They try to kill it. And if they can't kill it, they try to kill the people kill the character, the whatever it is of the ones doing it.
It goes back to what I said the other day. I think the reason the Lord, and they're not going to know what we're talking about, we have a weekend where we call Freedom Weekend. But the reason I didn't go to not this last one, but the one before that, is the Lord said to me, I knew it was going to be this transformer and vulnerable. Remember we all talked about when he came back, I'll join me, this is what we got to do. And he said to me, it's an identity crisis. That's what's going on in the earth. You don't know who I am, and you have no clue who I say you are.
Exactly.
There's not a big difference there.
No, there's not.
So I stayed out of that Freedom Weekend and stayed in this room and really, pushed into the Lord. But I noticed something the other day, and that Freedom Weekend's when I noticed it, and I got chills thinking about it, but I haven't actually said it to anybody yet. When I was at Freedom Weekend and the Lord said, put all your notes down, and I just went with it. He said something to me and it never clicked until right now, this second. And this is what it was. Do you remember when I was explaining to everybody the story of the prodigal son is not about the son? The son ran and wasted his inheritance. Everybody knows that. He's laid in the pig's bin. He was out of money. As soon as he made that turn and said, I'm going back to my father's house, the father ran out to meet him right where he was.
Right.
I don't need you clean. I need you here. Right? So the father ran out to meet him. But that's not the story either for this part, the chat we're having. It's the other son.
Right.
That was already supposedly in the house with God, already on the land, already doing all that stuff. What happened when his brother came back and started living in power? He got pissy.
He got jealous.
And that's the same thing that happens in church when you say, you can't hold anything against me because I'm just going to be transparent and tell on myself.
Exactly.
And ever since I've started to do that, I have got so much pushback. But the devil can't do anything with me. And I ain't had no seasons. I ain't had no roller coaster ways where the enemy attacking and all that stuff. I haven't had a lot of that until this past weekend. But I haven't had a lot of that because it doesn't matter anymore. But it didn't dawn on me just now, but that other son that was, so they're talking about Christians that was in the house the whole time, got mad about it.
Yep.
He got pissy because he let him back.
And this is the first part when we're talking about the way of Cain. So the reason I started getting into this is the Lord was highlighting, Jude was being incredibly prophetic. He was talking about stuff that's happening then, but in the timeline of the earth, we're moving into the land of promise. Yeah. That's what's coming. The 1,000-year millennial reign is when we're going to be conquering the land of promise, the ultimate land of promise.
We're right on the verge of it now. We're right on it. We're right where Caleb and Joshua came back and said, this is what's happening. And then they roamed around the desert until everybody dies.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing right now. We're back at Kadesh Barnea.
Yeah.
And we're back at the time to cross over.
And at any moment now, in the next 4 or 5 years, we're crossing over that.
Yeah.
And then it's starting.
And so we have to understand the ones that are not going to cross over with us, that are going to have to die in the wilderness. These are, according to Jude, these are the reasons why they didn't.
There's a lot of people now that Paul says it over and over. It's not faith by works. It's faith. When you have faith, works will come, but it's not by works.
It's not by works.
But there's a lot of people that still do that today.
Exactly.
They're still trying to earn it.
They're still trying to earn it. And so I started looking at it, and the reference for the way of Cain is Genesis 4:3-8. And in verse 7, this is when the Lord speaks to Cain, and he says, if you do well.
Yeah.
So you dig into that Hebrew word, it's tativ, which means to do well, to do right, to be diligent, to prosper, but always from the proper understanding of the covenant. That's the context of that word, is it's your actions are the correct actions on the foundation of the right understanding of the covenant. So what the Lord was saying was, look, if you will just learn from your brother his understanding of the covenant, and you will operate in that revelation, things will go well for you. But if you don't, sin is waiting at the door.
Yeah. I always wondered about that when you said that in the Old Testament. Be careful, sin's crouching at the door. I'm like, but we're born into sin. So how is it crouching at the door? It was not there yet? Like it was at a different time?
It's always there, but sin is the... we'll get into that later.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
But it's a weird word to say there.
It
Be
is.
Careful, sin's knocking at the door. It means it's not yet in you.
So the way of Cain is actually when we start twisting the covenant of the Lord. That's the way of Cain. And so, okay, as we said, Abel brought his offering, his sacrifice, from the revelation of covenant.
Yeah.
That this is, the Lord did this for our parents, to restore our parents, and he used the blood of an animal, something that I had nothing to do with. Now just hit your microphone. Something that I had nothing to do with. So I'm going to trust the Lord, and I'm going to go based upon what the Lord has done. I have a revelation of that. Cain brought the fruit of the ground, because Cain was a tiller of the soil. So it was through him, his attempts. It goes pretty deep. So Adam, the curse on the earth was, by the sweat of your brow.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that too.
Thorns. And so Cain is trying to break this curse through his own efforts.
I was just
bringing that. So he's bringing cursed fruit to the Lord as an offering.
When you're saying that too, that he told Adam, you're going to work by the sweat of your brow.
And
I'm
so
loving
that's,
the Holy Spirit does that.
I know, and that's the way of Cain. So
Never looked at that before.
Cain sees achievement. I'm going to break the curse by doing this through the sweat of my brow, and I'm going to bring the efforts that I put in as an offering to the Lord.
As if he actually did anything on
As
God's
if he did
soil and
anything.
God's rain. Like,
Right. As if he could actually control anything that happens.
right? Crazy.
And so where he saw achievement, Abel saw worship. And so Abel brought a revelatory sacrifice of worship, where Cain brought basically his works,
He brought the literal,
the literal cursed ground.
and then his brother brought the literal, like Moses said with the Levites to do this kind of offering.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing that 1,000 years before, literally same as the Passover, same as Jesus, same sacrifice, like
Exactly.
the covenant wise. I see where you're going.
Exactly.
I see where you're going.
And so what's interesting is, as we've said before, that his response to being corrected was violence, specifically murder. Cain's response to being corrected was murder. So today we call this, we basically call this a religious spirit. When somebody operates this way, we say they're operating by a religious spirit. But what's the response? The response is the same. When they're corrected in their religious spirit, their response is to lash out violently.
That sounds a lot to me like the devil. There's a verse in the Bible where it says the devil couldn't do nothing to God, so he goes after man.
Exactly.
That sounds like the same story.
Exactly.
Another type and shadow.
Another type and shadow.
Holy Spirit's on fire tonight.
And when you see, and it's funny, when you see people
Dang.
operating by this religious spirit, by the way of Cain, and they see true revelatory worship, someone who lives their life by revelation, the response is to kill that person. And you've seen this over history. Joan of Arc, if you want to go centuries back, they saw a life lived by worship, by revelatory worship, literal revelatory worship, from visions and dreams. What did they do? Kill her. You see this with all the early apostles. You see this with Jesus himself, who was confronting the religious spirit of his day. Their response was not repentance, but was
Heck, he even say it. Did you not kill all the apostles before me for saying the same thing?
Right. All the prophets before.
Prophets, not apostles. Yeah, prophets.
But yeah.
It's crazy.
And any time the true revelatory worship confronts that religious spirit, the response is murder.
Dang. So what about the Balaam one then?
Error of Balaam. That one's interesting. So you go to Numbers 31:16, and then 16:24, and then 25, 1-5. You also see it in Revelation 2:14. 2 Peter talks about it. So the story of Balaam is he was hired by Balak to curse Israel.
Yep, and he wouldn't do it.
And he straight up told him, I can only say what Yahweh tells me, what the Lord says. And that's what he did. Yeah. So from the Old Testament, in the Old Testament, from the way of judging prophets in the Old Testament, he was a true prophet because he only spoke the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
But then you see him considered a false prophet in the New Testament. And why is that? Because in what he did was he taught Balak how to destroy the nation of Israel. I cannot curse them directly. The Lord will not allow it. But if you allow them to break the covenant, if you tempt them to make the decision on their own to break the covenant, then the Lord will destroy them. So what was that error? Sexuality, eating food sacrificed to idols. That was how he did it. So he convinced Balak to send the Moabite women into the nation of Israel as prostitutes. And why did Balaam do the error with Balaam? Is he did this because of the money. He said, I can't curse the nation of Israel no matter how much you pay me, but since I want some of that dough, here's how you destroy them anyway.
It goes back to covenant again.
Mm-hmm. It starts with the way of Cain. So, and the heart of the issue is that those who fall into the error are led astray by the riches of this world and are motivated or driven by what they see instead of what is unseen. So all of their understanding, all of their vision, all of their desires are based around what's on this realm, what they can
Flesh.
see, flesh, natural things that are finite.
Huh.
Everything is about what's finite. They do not put their treasure in what is infinite. And so because of that, they fail to operate in the realm of the infinite, and they only operate in the realm of the finite, what is ending. So that's 100% of all their desire: money, cars, clothes, houses. And they not only, and this what leads into the rebellion of Korah, not only is that what their desire is, but they see that as divine, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Intention or something.
Validation. They just see that as divine validation. The Lord is saying that everything that I'm doing is right because I have money, because I have a nice house, because I have nice cars, because I have all of these things.
We know them.
Yeah.
There's lots of people like that now.
There's lots of ministers like that now. When you ask them how, I mean, they'll say it. You don't even have to ask them and confront them. They'll just outright say it. The Lord has blessed me with these houses, these jets, these cars, these.
He bless you because this is the best you're ever going to get in all of eternity.
He blesses you because you love you, but some of that is ill-gotten gains. He didn't bless you; you just stole it from his sheep, and he's not going to let that pass.
It's crazy.
Once again, your perspective is finite, not infinite.
Well, it goes back to the same thing we were just talking about when we were talking about Cain and Abel. Paul mentions this one too, because he says on there, store up things that are silver and gold and those kind of things,
Exactly.
And not brick and twigs
Not
and
wood, hay, stubble.
make it
and straw.
eternal, not temporary. So he goes through every one of these because he's explaining these in detail to one church or another.
Exactly.
Well, I told you earlier this year that same thing too. The Lord said you need to start thinking more eternal. Like in the midst of something like a disagreement with a brother, does it really matter?
Think eternity.
Not really.
No.
Not really. Does it matter if the rapture's pre or post? No, not
No,
really.
not really.
It's not salvational whatsoever. It doesn't matter. I'm not arguing with you.
Now, the things that do matter is if you're living in sin.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah.
Your understanding of who the Lord is, that matters. Your
Very much
understanding of
matters.
covenant, that matters.
Yeah.
But whether or not you speak in tongues or don't, that doesn't matter.
No.
Whether or not you believe speaking in tongues is legitimate, that really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you believe in healing today or don't believe in healing today, that doesn't matter.
But what I'm not doing is calling nobody no church father.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not rocking around with this smoky symbol praying to Mary and dead saints. I ain't doing that.
Nope.
Because I don't see that in the Bible.
That's a drastic misunderstanding of covenant.
No offense to Catholics. I'm not doing that. I don't see it in my Bible, so I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
And there's a difference between we don't, or we should not, because one of the arguments they have that sounds like a really good argument up front is we're not praying to Mary, we're asking Mary to pray for us, just like you would ask for a pastor to pray for you. Well, here's the problem with that. We should not ever ask for a pastor to pray for us.
No.
We should ask him to pray with us.
But also, Mary was the greatest among women.
True.
But she's dead.
She's dead.
So I'm not praying to a dead person. Jesus specifically says, and Paul says it too, he is our intercessor.
Jesus is the intercessor.
I was looking up a word the other day, and I didn't actually know this. In our Bible, where it says Satan, and we take it as this is the ultimate, like, evil, bad guy kind of thing.
But just accuser.
But when you go back to Aramaic, what he was speaking, in Greek it would be Satan, but in Aramaic it's like Satana. And if you look that word up in Aramaic, it literally means like the guy that accuses you in a courthouse.
Exactly.
Where you have Jesus is your advocate before. So if you have a court with the Father, Jesus is your advocate. He's only accusing you of things you did, but he died and the blood's better than all things. It speaks better things. So in all actuality, it goes back to something you taught a long time ago in Roundtable, that Jesus is the Lion of Judah, but Satan goes like a lion.
Like a lion.
And he speaks and he's loud, and you turn around, it's a little old cat with a big old voice.
That's all it is.
Like, because when he told Jesus, I'll hand you the kingdoms, it's because he owned the kingdoms. We don't have that same version of Satan to call down fire like an Elijah or any of them. That same Satan was defeated when Jesus came back from the dead. So
now he has not cast him out of this earth yet. That's coming.
Yeah, no, he's just much weaker than he was.
And that's because, for those who are in Christ. For those who are not in Christ, he's still the same.
Same.
He's the God of this earth.
Yeah.
Which is why we are not part of this earth.
Yeah.
We serve a higher God. We serve a higher king, the king of all kings. But yeah, that's the way of Balaam, or the error of Balaam, is looking things in the finite instead of in the infinite. And so we see everything, we see the judge of all of our life based upon what we experience now. And that's everything we do. If I don't get a certain number of people in the church, then we're failing. No, you're looking at the finite. You're not looking at the infinite. And you can dress it up with, oh, I care about their souls. And that may be true for some people, but for a lot of them, it's not the souls they care about, it's the tithes.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
There's a lot of groups like that.
There are. And it's an issue. And once again, this is a spiritual battle. And this is where I think we agree, but we view this in the way the Lord made us to look at the end times. Our lens, you're different. Looking from the Islamic, this is Islam, this is the Quran, and I'm looking at it from the Nephilim, but they're all driving at the same point.
Oh yeah, I think they're the same.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Because the same spirit runs both.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
Exactly.
I think there's a reason why the four rivers or four chains of angels are in the Euphrates. There's a reason why the Nephilim are going to come back out of the Middle East. There's a reason why, all that plays.
All that's connected. It's just different lenses looking at things from two sides of the same coin.
Well, we find all the time that when me and you look at something from different perspectives, the funniest thing is when we step out of those perspectives and look at it, it's the same dollar bill.
Same thing.
It's
same
just
dollar bill.
We're looking at it from a different side. It's the same dollar bill. And that's what's crazy, because a lot of people I talk to are like, no, you're not seeing this, you're not seeing this. I'm like, no, I'm past that. That's not a thing. It works out like that. So you have covenant trying to do it by yourself, and then you have Balaam doing things that's not eternal and more perspective now, and covenant a little bit. So what is the other one?
The rebellion of Korah. That's Numbers 16, 1-3.
I don't know if I even know this story.
Oh, this one's an interesting story.
Rebellion of Korah.
Yeah, so this is when Israel is, I can't believe it was, I think it's after they've already received the Ten Commandments, or not the Ten Commandments, but the Torah. It's after they've received the Torah. And Korah comes with 250 people that follow him. And in a nutshell, basically says, Moses, why do you set yourself above the people? Are we not all priests? Do we not all hear the Lord too? And Moses is like, look, hey, you set your incense in the morning. I'll set my incense in the morning. I'm not gonna argue with you. We'll just bring this before the Lord and let the Lord choose. If you want to lead these people, by all means lead these people. That was his conversation with Korah. And then it says that Moses went to other people and saw that there were 250 people that following him. And then Moses went to the Lord and said, all right, you know what? Hands are done. Don't listen to a single prayer that they pray. And so then the Lord, basically, they come out in the morning. The glory of the Lord falls down. He speaks to Moses. Moses comes out and says, hey, y'all get away from Korah and two other families. Can't remember off the top of my head what they are. Get away from their tents. If they die in a natural way, the Lord has not chosen me. But if they go down to Sheol alive, know that the Lord has chosen me. And so then the ground opens up and they all fall straight to hell without dying, to Sheol without dying.
Mind racing.
Yeah. And then a plague breaks out among all the people that followed them. And then Moses goes to Aaron, hey, quickly fill your incense and run to the people because the plague has started, and something like 70,000 people died. I'd have to look at the actual number, but it was a large number. It might have been 17. I can't remember off the top of my head. But a bunch of people died before Aaron could bring the censer with the incense to stop the plague.
You could have used one of those during COVID.
That's what I'm saying. COVID wasn't nearly as bad as this one.
Man, so I remember the ground dropping up.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be the same thing, and I'm saying type and shadow, same thing, that when the Lord comes back and all those who receive the mark, they're going to be judged and thrown in alive.
Exactly. Thrown straight to the lake of fire. And that imagery is so horrific.
Hmm.
People that have talked hellfire and brimstone have not even begun to scratch the surface
No,
of
they're
how
just
horrifying that is.
they're just, and I mean this in a good way. They're like the people who scream on the corners. They're
Yep.
trying to get their point across, but you're missing it.
You're missing
You're
it.
missing it. Like, if it's not about relationship, you can scream on a corner all you want. I'm a Christian, and I roll my window up and turn the radio loud.
Oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
it gets on my nerves.
And so the thing is, the rebellion of Korah, when you see it from the perspective of Jude, is directly related to the other two. So what led to this rebellion was the way of Cain and the error of Balaam. It's a progression. You start with misunderstanding the covenant, then because of that misunderstanding, you see things from the finite, from the temporal, instead of from the infinite. So you look at only what you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell right now. And so when Korah and those guys did not see all the promises that they expected happening right now, and they got jealous. Like, wait a minute. You're telling me this guy is putting himself above all of us? Well, look at all the crap that we've been through. How in the world can he put himself higher than all of us? We didn't even get what we promised. We're not rich. We're wandering around in the desert. And so because of that, they rebelled against the prophetic voice, which was Moses. Moses is a prophet. People look at Moses as a pastor. He's not Pastor Mo.
No.
He is the prophet, Moses.
Pastor Mo.
Which Jesus called him the greatest of all prophets. And he said that one greater than Moses is here with you, which is him. So the only greater prophet than Moses was Yeshua.
Yeah.
But they also rebelled against the chosen priesthood. They rebelled against Aaron too.
Yeah.
And they were priests under Aaron. They were Levites.
You know, what's funny is when you say that, because I automatically like make this short term like mention in my head. So I'm hearing you're not following the covenant. You're doing things on your own. You're living for now, and it's the only thing you care about. And on top of that, you want all the recognition and all the stuff to be about you.
And you're refusing to listen to the actual true prophetic voice.
That sounds like every church in America.
Yes.
It sounds like every mega church you go to.
Yep.
I'm not going to follow the covenant. I'm just going to follow this prosperity gospel. Or I'm not doing this. I'm going to do it by works, and that's what we're going to do. And most churches still believe that.
Absolutely.
Like, it seems like you just described in 3 Old Testament stories 75% of the churches in the world. And that's 95% in America.
I was about to say, yeah. That's a fairly generous percentage.
It's 95% of American churches. We got to go. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. And that's what the Lord told me for next year, actually. I don't know if I told you that. Stop your busyness and do
be
my
about business. Exactly. That he told me that. It's been a while. He's been talking to me about the difference between business and busyness.
You see my 2025 agenda still up there. 2026 is written on that piece of paper, and I haven't put it up there yet because it's not 2026.
Yeah, those are the three foundational belief systems that will have you die in the wilderness and miss out. And what's interesting about dying in the wilderness, when you look at it from the perspective of Revelation, it's not that you don't get into the promised land. It's not that you don't get into the kingdom. It's just you don't get there by translation. You get there through the tribulation.
Yeah.
So you have the ones who are the overcomers, who will meet the Lord in the air and go off to the marriage supper of the Lamb, the wise virgins. And the ones who die in the wilderness, are the ones that did not get to the marriage supper. They have to pass through the tribulation.
And they refuse the mark.
And they refuse the mark.
Those are also the martyrs.
They are the martyrs
for the throne.
Yes.
When they were telling Jesus, how long do we have to wait, oh Lord? And he says, wait till all the numbers accounted for.
And it specifically says, who are these? These are the ones who had their robes washed in basically the tribulation. They had their righteousness, understanding truly how to operate in kingdom culture through tribulation instead of through revelation. So Kevin Leal said it this way. Prophet Kevin said it this way. You're going to learn 2 ways, either by teaching or by life. Yeah. If you don't learn through teaching, you will learn it by life. The language I'm going to start using, you're either going to learn by revelation or by tribulation.
Yeah.
And that's where we're headed now as the body. You're either going to come into the kingdom through revelation, or you're going to come into the kingdom through tribulation.
I wonder, morbid thought, I wonder how many people in America, 300 million people, let's just say a million of them believe, like how many people are going to be in this mid-tribulation rapture? Like
Not
it doesn't
many.
seem like of the Christians there's going to be a lot.
I don't think it's going to be many. You know why? Because I think it's going to happen along with it. I can't really. I could lay it out an argument for this. I'm not saying this is exactly how it's going to happen. I'm just saying this is how I believe it may happen now. When the two witnesses are caught in the air, I think that's when the
Same time
rest.
frame. Me too. I agree with you.
And so I don't think it's going to be that many. Otherwise, all the people being caught up in the air would be seen as well as the two witnesses. But I think the world is going to be so caught up with the two witnesses that they're going to miss everybody else.
I think that's going to be more publicized. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say there's 8 billion people. I don't see 2 billion Christians leaving 6 billion behind. I say this in a nice way, but it sounds mean. I think the Lord's going to take up 500 million people, something
Maybe.
like that. And then you'll have a remnant that will be through the tribulation with the angel encircling and all
And the
that stuff.
way that it's written is the overcomers are seated on the throne with Christ. It doesn't give you a number, but it says that the ones who had to wash their robes through the tribulation is
Like sand
a
on a
group
seashore or
without
something.
number,
Yeah.
and it's of every nation, tribe, and tongue.
Well, I think also why it says that, and let's just say there's 1 billion Christians left. So that means there's 6 billion unbelievers. Of those, I think a lot of those, especially Islamic people, because the Lord's really moving over there right now, I think
Absolutely.
a lot of them will convert during the tribulation.
Yep.
I think it'll be a lot of like agnostics and atheists will convert through tribulation. So I don't think it's just Christians. I think a lot of them people, when people start dying off from all these plagues and the angels circling the air preaching the gospel, like people are going to figure it out.
And also, I think what's going to happen is I believe that in the last days, in these 3.5 years, 7 years, whatever it is, I think there's going to be an outpouring of all the grace, like all of the moves of the Spirit from the birth of the church until the end of time, because you have the 7 church ages.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to have all of the promises of the 7 churches culminating in the last one. So you're going to have the lion, the face of the lion with the overcomers. You're also going to have the grace of the martyrs. So what happened in the days of Rome is going to happen again on a grander scale, where you had those that were executing believers were coming to the faith of Christ because of the grace that was on the people being executed. Like when you're being forced to watch them torture your children to death, and instead of you screaming and being a broken human, you are begging for the forgiveness of those who are doing this, and you're singing praises to the Lord because of the grace on you. I mean, that's
not even on my mind. That's crazy.
You can't even fathom that. But there are actual stories. I remember reading it. I think it was Fox's Book of Martyrs talked about. There were many ones, but it honed in on one particular story of a mother who was forced to watch them torture to death her kids, and each child that came up were singing songs of praise to the Lord and praying for the forgiveness of those torturing them, which led the executioners to confess Christ and then be executed. Like the grace that was poured out on that time was unfathomable.
I've even had, this is crazy, but I've even had these thoughts like, if I'm going to get captured and you're going to try to force a mark on people, I'm killing my wife before I let you torture her.
Right.
I would rather shoot her and then apologize to the Lord for doing it. Like, I mean, the thought of that. Like,
right.
I'm not going to have you pulling out her nails and cutting off finger by finger. And there's torturous ways to kill people.
Oh, there are. And what people see in the movies is nothing compared to what actually
I also think, though, at the end times, there's going to be so many. I think that torture is going to be convert or not. Okay, off with your head. I think it'll be rather quick.
I mean, even now they're burning people alive, which is one of the worst ways that you could possibly think of going. Native Americans were masters of that type of
crazy.
But the thing is, when the Lord's pouring out that grace, when Holy Spirit is moving on you for that, then it's not a natural thing.
Yeah.
And that's why Jesus could say in the midst of being crucified, Father, forgive them, because they legitimately don't know what they're doing.
I heard a story today. I don't know if it made national news or just because, I don't watch any social media, but it come across my feed. And it said there was a guy in one of the Muslim countries. I'm not going to say which one because I don't remember. but there was a guy in a Muslim country, and I don't even know this to be true, but if it's true, it's crazy. They asked him to denounce Christ, and he refused. So they cut the guy's head off, and they put his body on one side of the street and his head on the other, just to keep him separated. And a Muslim guy walked by, and he said he was Islamic, but he said that's not right. It's not right to throw him on two sides of the street. Let's be hospitable. So he took the guy's head and put it back by his body. And he said as he did that, the head connected back to the body, and the guy stood up. And he's like, no way. And he goes, that's Christ. And supposedly that guy converted. And then
That'll do it.
It's nuts.
That'll do it.
Bro, if I put a head on somebody and he comes back to life, your God is my God. Like
Exactly.
in the conversation. Especially if you're obviously I'm not doing that, but if you're over there and you've heard the stories about praying and preaching and practicing your 5 times a day God and all this, but you don't see any miracles.
Right.
That's also why I think the Antichrist and the false prophet are going to be so followed.
And that's where I think witchcraft is absolutely going to be, because Islam is anti-witchcraft as well. But the only way that Satan can perform miracle signs and wonders is through witchcraft.
Yeah.
And then when you start talking about the implements with the staff, I mean that's witchcraft. The ring, that's witchcraft. Like all
calling
of
down
that,
fire from heaven, fake Jesus, like
that's all witchcraft.
Yeah.
And there's going to be such a rise of
the image coming to life, talking in the temple.
All of that's going to be witchcraft, and people can look down on it's all smoke and mirrors, and a lot of magicians. Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors, and I'm not talking about magicians.
Yeah,
I've actually run into legit warlocks, legit
I'm from
witches.
New Orleans. I've seen voodoo,
and there is power. I had a good friend of mine who, in college, operated in the discerning of spirits like nobody else I've ever seen. This guy could walk in a room and where you're a feeler, this guy could see.
Yeah, I know exactly someone that does that actually. My massage therapist is like that. I'll feel something. She's like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "No, I felt it."
Yep.
It's weird.
And so this guy, we were doing a lot of warfare. We were praying a lot of deliverance and warfare, and people were getting demons cast out.
That'd be a cool gift, by the way.
It was
scary.
It's terrifying. But
the Lord didn't give me that. I've been shot the wall thinking of something.
I've seen some things. I've seen some things, and they're terrifying.
I'll tell you a story in a second.
But so we're sitting here and in a Baptist. So we're at the Baptist Campus Ministries on this campus, and in the Baptist Campus Ministries, we had multiple people getting baptized in the Holy Spirit, having demons cast out of them, speaking in tongues. We had healings taking place. We had prophecy going forth. We had these people diving into the Word like they've never, and getting understanding that they've never had before in their life. And a lot of people that were actually operating in witchcraft were burning their books, were burning the tarot cards, and these were people in the Baptist organization coming up with, "Hey, I've been messing around with tarot cards," and this was an absolutely supernatural move of the Lord. We went from about 40 people showing up on the Tuesday night things to over 150, up to 180 people showing up regularly at the Baptist Campus Ministries. And so this friend of mine, when we're talking about the power of witchcraft, he's walking to class one day, and this woman stops him. And I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said something to him like, "Oh, I see you in the hospital, or I see you getting." And that day, he had to go to the hospital. He thought it was a gas bubble or something. What it was epididymitis, which is the inflammation of the epididymis in the testicles. That day, she cursed him, and he had to go to the hospital. So there is absolutely power in witchcraft, and epididymitis doesn't show up out of nowhere. There's usually an underlying cause. And this guy had no STDs, which is typically the underlying cause is an STD. So
I'll tell you a crazy story that I don't think I've ever told anybody in the church. Kara's the only person, because she's witnessed all 3 of these, which is what's crazy. When I was about, I want to say I was 17. I had just joined the military, but I haven't left for boot camp. This was my drinking and drug days. We're all drinking. It was when you go up Mobile Highway towards Softley Field on the left, there's that big neighborhood back there. I don't remember the name of it now, but that's what it is, right there by the ball fields and all that across from St. Anne's. big neighborhood. That's where we were living at the time. And we were standing outside. It was 4 or 5 guys from the military out there, a couple girls. We're all 17, 18 years old, all drinking. And I remember we were all talking. There was a light and the garage was open. People were in the garage. People were outside the garage. I had my Monte Carlo and I was sitting on the front of the car. You know how you're sitting there and chatting, and all of a sudden you just get this, there's something there.
Yep.
Right. So I was sitting there and I was drinking my beer or whatever, and everybody was looking at me because I was always the center of attention. And I was standing there and I was talking, and I was just, shocker, right? And I was just making everybody laugh, and I was saying all kind of weird stuff. And all of a sudden I heard this kind of like a voice, not like Michael Myers, but this kind of like snake sound. And I was sitting there and like my whole entire body froze. And like I'm standing there, I'm talking to somebody, so I'm like, and I froze. And the only thing I could turn was my head. And I looked to the right. Now we're 2 houses down on a road that tees to a cul-de-sac. We're 2 houses from the T, so we're not that far from here, like to the where you turned.
Right.
And I seen what looked to me like the Grim Reaper sitting there, and he's holding this giant scythe or skith, however you want to say it, scythe. He's holding this thing, and he's not looking at me. He's looking forward, and all I can see is this completely black face. There's like a glow around it, but I could tell it was all black. And he stops, and I am not moving. I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do. And he turns towards me, and I see him kind of open his eyes, but they're just less black than the black that's already there.
Right.
And he doesn't say anything. But what I now know is in my spirit, like I heard him say, I can't get you now, but I promise you I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and Kara, from her perspective, she's talking to me. I'm sitting there and I'm standing like this, and everybody thinks I'm like having this stroke or something because I don't move for like 2 minutes. I'm standing like this, and I stop and I just turn. She said, when I turn, my face goes white, and everybody's like tapping me to touch me. I'm not reacting to any of it. Like I only see this thing. And later on that night, we kicked everybody out, and I told her what happened. She's like, I can't believe that. So we went to bed. This was like 3 hours later. Like I didn't talk to anybody after that. I was just kind of quiet, and I told her later what happened. We were laying in the bed, and the same thing came in the room on the ceiling and was floating in the corner of the room. And she starts praying. She gets her mom on the phone, Pentecostals. They start praying, and this thing leaves. I go to boot camp, never have any issues. I come back. We've moved to Virginia. The first night we're in Virginia, this thing comes back. And I was out of my body, sitting there looking at this thing and looking at my body laying next to her in the bed. And all I knew is it's a long fall.
Yeah.
And that's all I knew. And I started screaming. The only Christian person I know is literally laying next to my body. I start screaming, Kara, as loud as I can. And before I know it, I'm looking at this thing. It turns and it starts to right towards me. And as it does that, I scream, and she wakes me up because I screamed in my body this time.
Yeah.
I had been screaming, and she woke me up. And she's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, for one, that thing, and it wasn't there, snatched me out of my body. I'm floating over. Like I know I'm dead. I can tell I'm dead, but it wasn't a peaceful, you're going up in a light tornado. It's like you're going down, and that's all there is to it. Yep. And that was when I was like 18 and still lived the next 30 years the way I did.
Yep.
Crazy, right?
So what's crazy about the thing, this is what I love about the reality of the supernatural and the spirit realm, because there have been countless people that had experiences, and I know the ones that are lying because they don't line up with anybody else. But there are so many parallels with people that have had true supernatural experiences that I'm like, okay, that's legit. People that have visited heaven, that talk about similar things. So
never done that. I want to do that.
In this case, when we were in college, I've said this before, we had a group that every night at midnight, we would meet on campus to intercede for the campus. We would meet on the quad in the center of campus, and we would pray for typically about 30 minutes to an hour. Sometimes when the spirit dropped, we'd be there till 3 a.m. And then there was another group in the same ministry that would be there at 4 a.m. So we had a midnight shift and a 4 a.m. shift, basically. So we were there one night, and we're praying, and this is really heavy, like warfare intercession. We're like praying in tongues, and we're like calling down demons, calling down, like tearing down strongholds, all this stuff in prayer. And I'm praying and I'm looking around, and I turn around and I look behind me, and probably from where I was standing, so you have this big open field, and we were over in one corner of it, and there was the small building with an overhang going into another building right here. So I was probably 40 feet, 30 feet,
That's what
40
mine was,
feet,
like 40
maybe,
feet away.
from this overhang. And I turn around and look, and this is lit. There are no shadows. This is a fully lit overhang. We have lights.
2 street lights.
We have lights and everything. And I turn around and look, and there is goosebumps, everything, hair standing up. Because I remember this thing. There was a fully hooded figure.
Hooded.
And I'm not talking like it's in my head. I'm talking physically. I can physically see somebody standing there with a black cloak.
Same, like a Jedi, like a dark Jedi.
Exactly.
With a black face.
And like this red tinge around the outline.
Yeah, I didn't see any red.
So I turn around, and this is what I did. I'm praying. I turn around and look, and I do a double take, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap.
And this one did that too. I looked at it, and it looked at me and said what it said, and it turned, and it was just kind of gone.
This was, I saw other things. I saw crazy stuff that people would say I'm crazy. But that one, I turned around and looked, and I was like, oh crap. So we started praying, and then things popped off. Like, we had all sorts of manifestations. People started getting sick. We had, it was insane. Very shortly after that, we had a whole coven of witches that when we were out there praying, I looked, and there was this row of hooded figures that walked onto the far end, so probably 100 yards away, gathered around in a circle and started chanting and swaying back and forth. And I'm like, all right, it's on. And I start walking, and somebody looked up and saw me and one other guy about 10 yards behind me walking towards them, and they all took off running. So, yeah.
I wonder, for someone who does the discerning like that, and I'm asking because I genuinely don't know, but it's all over your Bible. If you're a coven of witches like that and you see somebody walking, I wonder how many of them, through that gift of discernment, even the evil ones, can see the armies of Elijah or the 1,000 angels or the fire that's around us. Or I wonder if they can see the same thing in us that we see.
Oh yeah, I've actually heard stories from people that can. There was one I was reading. This guy was a full-on, fully submitted to the demonic. Like, the way he shares his story was when he was about 12, 13 years old, he was reading the Bible. He didn't understand it at all. And so he threw it down because he was mad at it. And then he heard a voice speak in his ear and said, put your hand on the table and lift it. So he put his hand on top of the table and did this, and the whole thing lifted. He's like, if you'll worship me, I'll give you everything you ever wanted. So right then he gave his life to that being. So he went through this whole thing where he was actually experiencing astral projection, where he had to be careful where he walked. Otherwise he would go through walls, and like massive migraines to people around him, like truly, truly dark demonic stuff. But he went to a Bible study. A friend of his invited him to a Bible study, and he was sitting there, and they started praying, and he looked up, and it was like this cloud dropped in the room and pinned him to the floor. And nothing he could do. He could not call on any of the demons that he had learned to call on. They weren't talking to him. They weren't even in the room. They had to leave. He was pinned to the floor until he gave his life to the Lord.
I wonder if there's any of those same kind of things. I know you read gifts of the Spirit and some of the things like that, but even like Jesus and Stephen both did it. Like Jesus said, he was just gone when he was about to get stoned, and then Stephen was sitting there talking to the eunuch, and then boom, he's somewhere else. Like,
it was Philip.
I wonder, or Philip. I don't know why I said Stephen. Stephen was the one that got stoned with Paul standing there. I wonder what that interpretation would be, because I've heard a pastor say he was preaching somewhere and he was also somewhere else preaching at the same time.
I've actually experienced that.
I wonder if that's a true thing.
It is a true thing. I've experienced it to an extent. I've heard another person experience it in the similar way that I did. I've had something like that happen to me twice. And these are the stories that even charismatics kind of look at you sideways when you share. So I don't share it with a lot of people. First time it happened was right after I had given my life to the Lord at Jubilee. And so I was so young in the faith and so dumb that I didn't question anything.
Yeah.
I just believed the Lord and did it.
Some of those are the best Christians you ever meet, though.
Exactly. So this one was crazy because I can actually, there are people that can corroborate this timeline. We were doing our spring performance for Pensacola Junior College at the Sanger Theater. And so I get there early to get everything set up and to get warmed up. And I realized that I left either my drumsticks or something at home. At this point, I was staying in Pace on Bell Lane in Pace, Florida, which is 30, 45 minutes, an hour away. So we only had 30 minutes before it started. That was it, 30 minutes before it started, but I didn't have the stuff. So I'm like, I'm just going to go. If I'm late, I'm late. So I leave the Sanger Theater, drive to my house, grab my stuff, get back in the car, drive back to the Sanger Theater. And the whole time I wasn't paying attention to cars on the road. I wasn't speeding. I was just praying. I was like, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do. You're the God of time. So I don't know how you're going to make this happen, but please help me get there in time. So I get there with 5 minutes to spare before the time to start. There is no way that I can leave the Sanger Theater, drive the speed limit, even if I sped, even at 100 miles an hour, from the Sanger Theater to Pace, Florida, grab my stuff out of my house, and drive back to the Sanger Theater.
No.
I can't get there in 25
Even
minutes.
if you straight shot it with no streets, just that'd be pushing it.
So that was one time. There was another time, and this one, so that one I had physical corroboration. I had people that were like, wait a minute, did you turn around and come back? Because they knew when I left. And I got back with 5 minutes to spare. I was like, oh, did you turn around? I was like, no. Did y'all start late? And they're like, no, we got 5 minutes to go. And I was like, I don't understand how that happened. They're like, man, you must have been flying. I'm like, no, I set my cruise on speed limit. Like, I don't understand what happened. I just made it back in time. The second time something happened, I was in college, and my best friend at the time was here in Pensacola, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't even know why I woke up, other than the Lord's like, wake up, I need you to pray. So I started praying, and then it was almost as if I was taken out of my body and I was in a bedroom, and I looked over and my best friend was in the bed. I'm like, this is weird. Okay. But in this vision, I thought I had a vision. I was like, in this vision, I see all these dark shapes, these dark figures, like coming, like trying to go on my best friend. And so in the dream, I say a dream, or in this vision, whatever it is, I wasn't sleeping. It wasn't a dream. But what I thought was in this vision, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to fight these things. So I was praying, I was grabbing, and I was throwing, and all of this stuff, and casting them out, and all of this. And then all of a sudden, when they left, like when all of them were gone, I was back in my dorm room. So it wasn't like I was in my dorm room seeing this in my head. It was as if I was there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's weird. So when I came back for on summer break the next summer, my best friend invites me over. The first time I'd ever been to their house. I'd been to their house one time before to have dinner or something and like talk with the dad, stuff like that. But I'd never been in the room. So they're like, hey, I got this. I want you to come see this. I'll walk in the room, and it was exactly as I saw. Identical, even to the figurines on the wall, to where their desk was set up, where their bed was set up, where everything was identical to what I had seen. So it wasn't a vision. I had been taken from my dorm room in Jacksonville State University,
Crazy.
Sent here to war, to pray, to intercede at that time, and then immediately put back in my dorm room. Now, whether, just like Paul says, whether it was in my body or out of my body, I don't know. Yeah. I couldn't really tell. All I know is it happened.
I don't have any of those. Like, I have dreams, and I write them all down, but I don't have any of those. I catch you doing it. Derek does it too. Like, you'll be sitting there, and you'll be praying, and we'll be at like round table, and also be like, I saw the Lord, and you'll see something. I don't know that I've actually seen something. I don't know if that's how it works for me. I think the voice is probably where it stands out most for me. Like I can be, you see my journals, I can be anywhere, and all of a sudden I got 6.5 pages of me and him going back and forth. I hear people say all the time, I don't know how God speaks. I'm like, really? I could write a book on it. Like, so I think there's difference for each people. Like I would love to be like, I want to go to the courts of heaven and let Satan accuse me and let the Lord tell me who I really am, and then I get to see the Father and hang out for an hour and come back. People do that stuff all the time. I would love to do that. I don't know if it's, I think it's different for different people, and I say it like this and it offends people. I think I'm Thomas. I think I'll believe it when I see it. And then I encountered the Lord and I saw the Lord, and he said, blessed are those who believe and don't have to see.
Yep.
I think I'm just I'm a soldier. Tell me what to do, Lord, and that's what I'm doing. Like,
and the thing is, like the signs and wonders are phenomenal, but the signs and wonders have to be laid upon the proper foundation. If the foundation's not there, then the signs and wonders will not produce fruit. If you don't have the soil prepared, then the signs and wonders are a waste of time.
Yeah.
I guess we're probably gonna have to end there. I'll have to go get Isaiah.
I'm gonna run back there and change. Just because of the fact that I have to write a